What a story this is. This Texas woman tries to save herself, picks up the phone, calls 911, and for 11 excruciating minutes, the dispatcher can hear her screams, hear her pleas, and what may have turned out to be her murder. But our affiliate, WFAA, reports the responding officers knew none of that.
They didn't check nothing.
Broken heart again, another lesson learned. Better know your friends, or else you will get burned.
They didn't look nowhere. They just left. That's not right.
Didn't go around the back side of the house?
No.
Check the back door?
No.
Hello? Do you need police car or ambulance? I need an address. Hello? I need an address. Hello? This is Tonyita, dial 711.
I don't wanna cry no more. No more pain, no more pain.
Born on June 1980 to Vickie Cook, Deanna Antoinette Cook grew up in Dallas, Texas, along with her loving sister. She was very athletic. She enjoyed to run. Deanna's mother said it was a way she used to escape.
She loved to run. And I used to tell her all the time, you get upset, just run. When things don't go your way, just run.
And she broke records.
Broke records in the 200-yard dash. When she was in the 7th grade, she broke a record.
Deanna was a track star growing up, superstar. She competed at a very high level. When I think of my mother, strong comes to mind. Very strong woman in all aspects. Physically, my mom looked like this very strong, chocolate-like toned track body. She loved journaling and writing, so she was working on writing a book. She was always the entertainment for everyone, very loud, outgoing.
She was sweet. When she walks in the room, she gets all the attention.
Mostly a spark and just a fun lady.
From being a young mother and after 2 unsuccessful marriages, Deanna found herself coping with substances due to her depression. Fortunately, she found herself again through her faith in God. She even began going to church, got a new job, bought a new home with a pool for her daughters, and eventually found love again.
Our childhood was fun. We went through a lot as kids, but together, we stuck through it and we had a good time. She worked at this auction car place. She just bought us a new house. She was like, I got this house with a pool for you guys. Me and my sister had our own rooms and my mom had her room. She was very willing to do any and everything to make sure we were in a safe space. I would describe our community we was raised in, not 100% safe, but it was a community where my mom made it feel like home, a big castle we could come in and out to and have the greatest time ever. My mother, she pretty much made sure me and my sister had what we needed. We always had animals, pets, turtles, cats, dogs. We didn't have a big age difference. So she was kind of like my big sister in a way, and my mother, and my friend.
Deanna was described as a loving and caring mother, as well as an active member in her community. She was always willing to help others in need, and her kindness and compassion were truly remarkable.
She had started going to church, so it was like a big change in her life at that time. She would call me. She'd tell me what she's doing. I had a phone call from Deanna every day.
Cell phone, her life. Deanna was a talker and a texter, and the text would probably say something like, call me. She liked to post. She would tweet all the time. If she was going out, she would let you know she was going out. If she was upset with her guy, she would let you know that. Deanna would date very interesting types of men. They like to party like she liked to party. Men that I wouldn't say that I would date.
Deanna was a bright light in her family's life that her ex-husband, Delvecchio Patrick, ultimately tried to dim. When she first crossed paths with Patrick, she fell head over heels in love with him. Sooner rather than later, they exchanged marital vows and got married on June 4th, 2008. Unfortunately, the relationship between the two was not too good from the very start. Even before they got married, there were allegations about Patrick's behavior towards his wife.
Before they even got married, he used to beat on her, but she married him because she thought she could help him.
She thought marrying him would change
Well,
things.
he would stop.
But he didn't.
No,
Did it get worse?
it got worse. I told her to call the police, and she said that she did, but they won't do anything.
Sadly, Deanna had endured years of physical and emotional abuse at the hands of Patrick. Deanna had been trying to escape the situation for a while, having reported to police several times that Patrick was violent. Despite her best efforts, her attempts to get away had been in vain. Deanna was literally living in fear as she was constantly on alert, had no idea when or if Patrick would hurt her again.
Number one, this is Pat. What's your emergency? I have a stalker. He's been out here in his house son all day long. He's been out here across the street watching my house. I don't know what his plan is. You can look up my name. You can see it's 100,000, about 1,000 complaints. But ain't nobody doing nothing.
On prior occasions, Deanna had reported to police that Patrick had been violent with her while married. In January 2009, police officers responded to a 911 call that he was holding Deanna at knife point. She told police that he kicked a bedroom door off its hinges, choked her, and shoved her against a wall so hard that she started to black out.
When she woke up, all of her clothes were gone. He had removed her clothes. And she ended up running out the house to a neighbor's house. He could have killed her that day.
He tried. That was the third time.
You heard Delvecchio threaten to kill your daughter.
I did. And I told her to leave him alone. I said, he's serious. He's gonna do it.
He would go to jail for days and get out. And then the cycle would begin again and again.
Officers arrested him, but he was released on a $25,000 bond the following month. Accusations of violence surfaced again almost immediately after. A motion filed by prosecutors seeking to increase his bond laid out that every month at her home there was a disturbance. In February 2009, he choked her and she asked him to leave. In March, he called her phone over 100 times, threatening to harm her in front of her children and to have his friends abuse her children as well. It didn't stop there. In August, he choked her, took her wallet, and called her mother, threatening to unalive her. By October 2009, Deanna filed for divorce. She wrote to the court several months later that she needed the divorce papers served to Patrick in jail. "I really need this divorce, please," she wrote. However, a judge dismissed the case after there wasn't a follow-through. The accusations of violence stopped between March 2010 and April 2011, but only because Patrick was in jail. Nonetheless, after being released on May 25, 2011, he found his way back to Deanna's home. He was arrested again for assaulting his wife. Following this traumatic incident, she filed for divorce once again, and it was finally granted in January 2012. That same month, she even got a restraining order. But that didn't stop her ex-husband. Patrick continued to call her and threaten her until he was able to quote-unquote deliver his promise.
August the 17th was a Friday. She used to call me around 10 or 11 every day when she'd be driving for her job. And this particular day, she didn't call. I said, that's not like Deanna. I said, and she haven't called me. I said, so can y'all please help me try to find Deanna.
Deanna lived in fear, not knowing when he'll show up again. However, the day he did come, she did her best.
Hello? Do you need police or ambulance? I need an address. Hello? I need an address. Hello? This is Tonyita down 71. Hello? You need police or ambulance? I need an address.
While Deanna was begging and gasping for help for 11 minutes as her former husband allegedly choked her to death, dispatcher Hopkins, the call taker who spoke to Deanna, was working overtime that day. She knew immediately what block Deanna was calling from, if not the exact address.
They said Deanna Cook died because of a botched 911 call that was mishandled by you.
I didn't blame people for thinking that because they don't know all the information. At the end of the day, somebody lost a daughter, a mother, and a sister. That was what was important to me.
You had signed up for overtime that day.
Yes.
Why?
Because we were short-staffed.
You pick up that first call.
And the first call is that call.
Deanna called from a cell phone, so Tonyita didn't have an exact address, only a street name, Crimson Court. She sent that to the dispatcher, as well as the code for domestic violence.
When the dispatcher sees that note, they're supposed to then what?
According to the training, they should be dispatching within 3 minutes.
That's how it's supposed to work.
That's how it's supposed to work. Once I found the address, I was very relieved, and I was thinking, okay, she'll get the help she needs. I typed in urgent, and I typed address updated, and still hear disturbance in the background, something to that effect.
It's painful to listen to. You hear a woman who sounds like she's struggling for her life. And the obvious question is, how could you not stand up and scream and say, hey, I got to get somebody to this person right now?
I didn't hear it. If I heard as much as you're saying, then I would have.
Did you hear Deanna choking?
No. I did not hear anything that sounded like her choking, no.
Just before 8.5 minutes into the call, a male voice, presumably Delvecchio, says, I'll kill you, I'll kill you.
I didn't hear that.
Not only was she distracted trying to find an address, Tonyita says the headsets that 911 operators in Dallas use don't block out background noise.
Something as simple as a headset?
Yes.
Could have made a difference?
If you've got 20 operators in a room and they're all talking and some of them may be yelling and you've got a buzzer buzzing because there are calls holding, you've got all of that going on, plus you're trying to hear. What I did hear initially was the screaming. To me, that was enough to get the police there.
Despite the fact that the call was labeled urgent, they didn't prioritize her call. The dispatcher didn't even order officers to respond. Instead, they allowed 2 officers to volunteer to the call. As such, the officers who took the call, Officer Julie and Officer Amy, didn't exactly rush to Deanna's house. First, they stopped to check out a residential burglary that turned out to be fake. Then they stopped by a 7-Eleven for personal items. Once the officers finally made it to Deanna's home, they knocked on the door, checked a few windows, and called Deanna's cell phone. Received no answer, therefore they left.
If they would have responded as soon as they could have been at the corner, and then as soon as they got an address, they could have been there. I think my sister's life could have been saved if they took domestic violence as seriously as they should have. What in their mind made them think that it was okay to stop and get something to drink for a domestic violence call, period?
Didn't go around the back side of the house?
No.
Check the back door?
No.
They didn't check nothing. They didn't look nowhere. They just left. That's not right.
Sadly, Deanna was in fact in her home, lifeless, but wasn't discovered until 2 days later when her family came over worried about her. On August 19th, worried family members arrived at Deanna's home. It was a Sunday, and she didn't show up for church, which wasn't really like her. When they arrived, they found Deanna's 2 dogs running loose, barking, and noticing water leaking from the garage.
Sunday morning, me and the girls, we went to church, and she wasn't there.
The pastor actually prayed over the family because my granny told him, like, something not right. She didn't come to church. And we left early, and we was on our way.
So it's kind of like relief moments for me because I'm finally going to the house. I get to see my mom. I just returned back from a cruise and everyone was just really quiet and was saying, hey, you know, before we take you to your car, we have to go by Deanna's house because we hadn't heard from her since Friday. Immediately, I thought something was wrong. As soon as we pulled up to the house, the first thing I noticed was a stream of water coming from her garage to the street. As we're getting out, the dogs are out. It's 2 chihuahuas. So they're never outside, just barking. We're like, why are they outside, you know? We step on the back porch. The rug is saturated with water. I peeped through the back window and I could see the water in the house.
Their knocks went unanswered, and when they called 911 from a cell phone, the call taker was dismissive, telling them to check the jail or local hospital.
Dallas 911, Graham, what's your emergency?
My daughter has been missing since Friday. No
How
one
old is
has
your daughter?
She is 32.
Call all the jails and hospitals?
No, I have not. Ma'am, can you just send the police over here?
No, ma'am, you have to do this first. We were out there.
What was it out here for?
We were out there. I don't know what they came out there for, but we came out there.
On the 17th?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that was just a couple of days ago. And Deanna's been missing since the 17th.
Do you think it's foul play? Do you think somebody did something to her?
Yes, I do.
You are refusing to call the jail?
No, I'm not refusing, ma'am. I just wanted some officers here to help us get in this house.
Police can't help you get in the house.
So I just said, Mom, hang up the phone. I'm about to kick the door down. And I turned around and I just kicked.
They went to the back of the house and kicked in the patio door. The house was filled with an overwhelming foul smell, and the family could tell that the door to Deanna's bedroom had been kicked in.
When I kicked the door in, the first thing that came out was the smell.
And when I walked in, all I saw was water, and it was water everywhere.
It covered our feet. We walked through the kitchen. That was the back of the house, through the living room. My aunt actually let me in, and I jumped in front of my aunt. I was behind my grandmother. I think my aunt was behind me and my sister. We were still walking in water when my mom pushed my sister's door a little bit, and when she pushed the door, it fell off the hinges.
The hinges on her door had been kicked in, and I jumped back because I saw something on the bed, and I thought it was her. But it wasn't her, it was blankets, and the room was tore up.
The bed is off, like everything, the whole room is destroyed. It looked like a tornado had been through it. My mom is still on the phone with 911 because I'm young. I'm just looking at everything. I'm like, okay, there's been a fight. She could be gone. She could have got away.
Moments later, they found her body in the bathroom, laid out, half in, half out of her overflowing bathtub.
And I walked in the bathroom and I pushed the door open and I seen her in the water and I screamed and it was.
Who did you see?
I saw Deanna in that water. Oh God. I just started screaming, he did it. He said he was gonna do it, and he did it.
As soon as I walk in, I just see her. And she's in the tub. She's laying there. She's covered in water. The water is still running, and she's just floating. I just stood there. I stood there over her body, and I just kept looking. So my sister walks in, and she's doing the same thing I'm doing. We're not seeing nothing. And then before I know, my sister just starts crying. She walks outside and she just starts crying. I see it's her. I walked out because it really just stunk so bad. Just seeing her face and her body in that tub and how she was laying, I just remember saying, turn off the water. And I reached to try to turn off the water. And my mom comes from nowhere and she says, don't touch anything. And I just remember running out after that. I went back in and I just had to look again because I'm like, what's going on? It really just clicked to me then, like, she gone. Like, they don't CPR from that. You can't bring her back from that. The only thing I was thinking was, why did they let us find her? Why would they force us to see that? Because it was 3 generations. It's My mom finding a daughter is a daughter finding a sister, and then his daughters finding their mother in that state where, like, her skin was gone on her face, you know?
I lost my first child, my firstborn. I never thought that I would live to see my kids die. I thought they would live to bury me, but that wasn't the plan that God had.
The family called authorities, and not long after, they arrested her ex-husband and charged him with Deanna's murder on the very same day.
Now, CNN did receive a statement from the attorney of this murder suspect. Suspect's name is Delvecchio Patrick. Here's what he said, quote, "The beauty of the American justice system is that it assumes a person is innocent until they are proven guilty."
Almost 3 years after the death of Deanna, Patrick's trial began in May 2015. During the trial, various witnesses, mostly neighbors of Deanna, spoke against Patrick about several incidents where they heard or saw the alleged predator hit or abuse his ex-wife.
I seen him had her by the neck up in the air, choking her. So I screamed, "Let her go, let her go."
I mean, like ringing the doorbell, constant trying to wake us up. And when I came in, she like fell through the door. She had on her undergarments, no clothing.
There had been times that she had called us over to her house, and she had been beaten up pretty bad. And each time that we had been there, Mr. Patrick had left.
On the other hand, the defense attorneys attempted to show that Deanna was the aggressive one who instigated most of all the fights between the couple.
There's a range of conditions that Ms. Cook exhibited, and it led to a host of behaviors and lifestyle choices and sometimes erratic behaviors that were self-destructive.
She was always threatening, you know. She didn't like the family.
Delvecchio Patrick's stepfather said Deanna was the violent, controlling one in the relationship, and he told him to leave her. Hall, asked by prosecutors if Patrick was obsessed with Deanna Cook, he answered,
I'd say he loved her a lot.
Well, we did not hear from Delvecchio Patrick from the witness stand, first off. That's his right, nothing to read into that. But we did hear from a fellow inmate today and that jail nurse, one who says Patrick admitted to Deanna Cook, another who says they never heard that.
They say I murdered somebody and I didn't do it. And then Mr. Patrick said, I did. And Mr. Stoker kind of looked at him and he said, I killed that. He said that he would be at peace because he no longer had to worry about her.
And why would he admit it to me? I don't know him.
If somebody admitted to you that they committed a murder, would you remember it?
Yes, I would remember it.
Dallas detective Derek Cheney, who grew up with Patrick, was called to verify his childhood friend's voice, first in a jail phone call.
You don't have no idea or nothing. He wasn't to do me, he wasn't doing with nobody.
Whose voice is it?
It's his defendant. It's
Delvecchio Patrick?
Yes, sir.
However, the recording of Deanna's frantic 911 call was a key part of the evidence against him, along with her lengthy trail of abuse prior to the divorce.
When Carlita kicked the door in, the smell hit her and she just turned and ran. And I went in and the water, like it was so high, it was covering my feet. Like a shadow. I shot up behind the curtain and I started screaming because it was her. And the water was still running. The water was still running. And I just said, he killed her. He said he was gonna do it, and he did it. He did it. He did it. Help me.
She identified Patrick by his name on the call as she pleaded with him to stop the attack. And after a week-long trial, Patrick was found guilty of Deanna's death. Prosecutors asked for a life sentence, but Patrick's defense suggested as little as 5 years. Patrick's mother spoke on his behalf, telling the jury that her son has 2 younger children of his own that he needed to take care of. The jury began deliberating the punishment for Patrick at around 2 p.m. that day. They were able to return back with a decision by 4:30 p.m.
The Dallas County jury found Delvecchio Patrick guilty for murdering his ex-wife. That decision came in late this afternoon. In 2012, Deanna Cook was murdered while she was on the phone calling for help. She'd called 911.
Yeah, Steve, 3 hours and 20 minutes, jurors deliberated before returning that guilty verdict. There was a lot of emotion in the courtroom, but the judge admonished everyone not to cry out, not to scream, not to react in any way when the verdict was read. And as soon as that guilty verdict was pronounced, people began spilling out into the hallway, and as you can imagine, the emotion spilled out there as well.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you.
The family's excited as well as myself, and we're excited to see what's going to happen on Tuesday so this family can get closure. It's been a long, emotional 2 years for this family.
The jury sentenced Patrick to 85 years in prison. Deanna's daughters gave impact statements in court after the sentence was handed down. Patrick showed no remorse and even laughed at one of the girls before heading off to serve his long sentence.
85 years in prison. That's the sentence given to Delvecchio Patrick for murdering his ex-wife, Deanna Cook.
Prosecutors wanted a life sentence here. The ex-husband's lawyers suggested as little as 5 years. And so the victim's relatives are pleased tonight.
As of today, he will remain in prison until at least August 2042. After Deanna's death, the police department responded to the outrage and criticism of the 911 system. The department moved for calls that involved death or serious bodily injury to be classified as the highest priority.
Their unit didn't arrive, I believe, until 50 or so minutes after the call was made. It's a landline. They can know exactly where the call is coming from, and they can send out units. She's trying to figure out where this call is coming from. And so she's having to look back through prior calls and prior history to figure out the location of the call.
With someone pleading for their life, and nothing more was done but a knock. I will look through the window and back to the police station.
Why critical information wasn't relayed to officers, and why this call didn't receive the priority it deserved, I don't know exactly why. You know, we failed Deanna. All of us. We all did in some respect. My job was to hold Delvecchio Patrick accountable. And so I really was really trying to make the focus on him. He wanted to control Deanna more than anything else. And if he couldn't control her, he was going to kill her. There were massive changes to the system after this case. Staffing has been increased by a large margin. And I also know that domestic violence calls like this are given a higher priority, and they deal with these calls with more urgency at the 911 call center.
The agency also suspended the 911 operator who took Deanna's call and fired the 911 taker who was dismissive.
I wanted to know what critical information should I have entered. If I'm being punished for something, then I need to know why.
Were you thrown under the bus?
I don't know. I was thinking that, I was possibly being used as a scapegoat. I'm a survivor.
You're a survivor.
I'm a survivor. And so I didn't take those type of calls lightly.
Deanna's family also filed a federal lawsuit against the city of Dallas, but a judge dismissed the case. Deanna's family appealed multiple times, but the city of Dallas didn't back down and spent over $350,000 fighting the family instead of settling. While the suit is still going on, Deanna's family created a foundation in her name called Deanna's Voice to speak out against domestic violence.
We have events. We have a scholarship fund, a program called Breaking the Barriers that's basically giving back to those families who unexpectedly are also
victims. So like we were victims. And so we called it Deanna's Voice so that we can shine a light on those people that voices are being taken from them.
If Delvecchio is watching the show, what would you say to him that he needs to know from your heart to his?
I forgive you. I hate you did what you did, but I forgive you. Because I can't make it to heaven with hatred of you in my heart. So I have to forgive you.